Obviously, Netflix surpassing expectations yet again. What are you reading between the lines here?
Look, I think, I said this last time we spoke about it, that Netflix has done better than I think many people thought in terms of adapting to a few things. One, the competition from Disney and AT&T and T and others. Two, international expansion, which is something they invested heavily in a few years ago and is really starting to reap the benefits of now. And then lastly, their content slate wasn't as disrupted as Hollywood and others in terms of COVID and have to stop production. And so those things I think have really helped it propel, as well as just the macro growth in over the top and streaming over the last year, which has been tremendous.
Now, Netflix is saying it's going to deliver more than 70 movies alone this year. That's not counting television. That is not counting other titles. How much of an advantage is this over the competition at a time when production has been stalled and, restarting in fits and starts for so long?
So I think it's a huge advantage in terms of their core competency, which is really, distribution and production company for streaming video content. I mean, so their core, they're showing that they can really flex the muscles and their investments and all the money that they've put towards it over the last few years is really going to reap benefits. I think on the flip side, the concern that I would have is that Netflix came in by being the company that was innovative and forward-looking and took behemoths like Blockbuster pretty much out of business. If you think about it, though, the last 2 or 3 years, what have they really innovated in? They're competing against these multinational media companies that have multiple revenue streams, not just video, but they have gaming, they have audio, they have operating platforms. And my concern would be is Netflix just becoming so focused, even though they're being really good, can they be kind of outflanked by these media companies that have much more of a diverse offering, podcasting, audio, and ways to monetize clients? So, are they going to make any investments or acquisitions or innovate internally?
Now, it's an interesting case you make that Netflix hasn't done something truly radical in a few years, but I believe executives would push back on that and say 70 plus movies in a single year. Isn't that pretty radical?
I mean, Blockbuster probably would have said in the late 1990s that they bought, 10,000 titles that year compared to, 5,000 the year before. I don't know that just doing more of your core competency can be considered innovation. At the same time, no one can debate how well they've been able to execute. And they've made the right call in terms of when many people thought they were overspending. They've shown in terms of content, original content production, they've shown that's been kind of their savior and helped them fend off competition. So, who am I to doubt their strategy? I'm just saying in terms of their ability to engage and monetize the 200 million subscribers that they have, they are now just going after a very limited portion of the connected media pie. A lot of the growth in terms of the macro ecosystem over the last 18 months has been in audio, even more so than connected TV. And then most people, and myself being one of them, believe that over the next 3 to 4 years, the majority of the rapid growth is going to be in gaming. And these are two avenues where the Disneys and the AT&Ts and the Sonys and others are legitimate players in, and Netflix is not.
So what do you think's most likely? I mean, how likely is it that they introduce advertising or get into gaming or get into audio?
Well, they've said that they don't see themselves getting into advertising in the foreseeable future. I mean, if you look at the success that solutions like Pluto TV and Zumo and Tubi, all of which over the last 18 months have been acquired by huge media companies and have additional content coming online. There is, in certain international markets as well, that the SVOD subscription-based solution is just not as viable. And even if you look into some of Netflix numbers, certain markets, they're not getting that massive growth. I do think that turning on free ad-supported, particularly with their huge original library for older seasons, could be a huge opportunity. I mean, the real advantages that Netflix always had were three things, right? So they had more content available for streaming than anybody else. Even with the 70 new shows and everything coming out, there's massive libraries coming into streaming from NBC Universal and Disney and others. They had better distribution, meaning that the Netflix app was available on more platforms, from Roku to Apple TV to Fire TV. Everybody's catching up with the distribution. And then they had cheaper pricing as compared to cable. All of these streaming solutions have preferable pricing to cable. So, I just think some of the core that they have are not sustainable, even though they're running an amazing business.